Hey, welcome to the Horse Hour podcast. I'm Amy Frost. My guest today is James Hick. He's the new Chief Executive of the British Horse Society. And in these unprecedented times, not only do we talk about how he's coping with the coronavirus and the advice that the BHS are giving our industry, but we also go back. And before we were on lockdown, we were at the National Equine Forum. James had a session on access, bridle way access, and how we can keep our horses safe when we're riding and hacking. So James is here today to answer those questions for you. This is Horse Hour. Hey, welcome to Horse Hour. I hope you're well and staying safe right now. It's really tricky for us, especially as we need to go out and tend to our horses. And actually, it's quite good for us to get a little bit of headspace where we can. So if you are managing to go and see your horse, then I hope you're managing to do that safely. And if you're stuck at home right now, then I hope that you're okay and using social media and the internet and Facebook and FaceTime to be able to stay connected with people. I know that we've been relatively quiet over the last month, just trying to get my head around everything, really. I had some great episodes to be able to launch and to be able to publish and share with you. But the truth is, it didn't feel right. Some of the stories were highly personal. And so we just wanted to kind of muddle our way through this pandemic. And at some point, I will release those episodes for you so you can hear other people's stories. But for now, really, it's about staying safe and just getting through this quite tricky time. So what I'm doing is trying to use this time for education and for learning a little bit more about how I'm going to handle my horse, things that I can do when we can get back into riding and you know, when we've got a little bit more normality. But for today, I thought it'd be great if we spoke to James Hick. He's just started at the British Horse Society, and I've been really looking forward to speaking to him because he's been working hard to help keep the access and the bridleways open for us. So James, welcome to the Horse Hour podcast. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Thank you. It's really funny actually because I haven't looked in the mirror for most of the day, and as no time with horses and things, and I just realised I've got my top on that I get from the BHS when I joined. Goodness knows how many.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you get a free little jumper, and I thought, oh, that's funny, isn't it? I've got that on today. Nice. I still wear it.
I got a welly bag. I might have had an option to have it, but I got a welly bag that lives in my boot. It's always been there for the last 10 years with my old wellies in, just in case welly bag. You know, when you get out of the car and you're desperate for a pair of wellies.
Always need one. We always think that these promotional goodies, you know, never get used, but actually they're quite great to have because they stick around.
Exactly. Aren't they?
How are you finding the role then?
I joined in 2nd of December. Actually, was my first day of work, and I spent most of December working in HQ up at Stoneleigh there. And then I spent all of January and all of February out on the road. And I think I managed most of the first part of March. I think I had about 120 meetings with different people up and down the country. I went everywhere bar. I didn't make it. I got cancelled going to Ireland, and I got cancelled going to Wales. But beyond that, I've been the length and breadth of the country and met lots and lots and lots of our in different communities and stakeholders. So I had a fantastic insight in those first few months of what we do and who we're doing it for. And now, you know, we've been into this for the last 5 weeks or so, however many weeks it is, which again has been, you know, it's obviously, you know, a terrible situation that we're all in at the moment. But from a activity in terms of what we as a BHS have been doing, you know, we've been just working flat out, in truth, trying to support all the different types of stakeholders that we've got and the wider equestrian community. And, you know, everybody's got so used to the technology now and how we communicate and how we work and all of that. It's you know, we sort of got used to it and got on with it. And, you know, you would never choose it, but it's, you know, I think we've been pretty successful in terms of keeping our charitable aims going at the same time as trying to defend our cost base like everybody else and revenue, but really being there for our members, you know, being by their side.
You know, I could say I'm a little bit biased because I'm a bit of a BHS fan.
I know
but
you
let's
are.
pretend.
Just checking you out on your Twitter feed and various other things. So thanks for all your support.
You're very welcome. But let's pretend for a moment that I'm unbiased. And actually, I find that with the whole coronavirus, it's very scary as a business owner, as a horse owner, as just a general person, with knowing what was going to happen and preparing and just trying to feel safe, really. And what I felt you did really well was you informed us immediately of your interpretation of what the government was saying, and you kind of became that safety net because nobody knew where to go. Now, really, without talking too badly about the other equestrian, parent, I call them the parents, the governing bodies, I didn't hear from a lot of them for a really long time, whilst it was you and the BEF that came out first and said, look, this is what we think you should do. We think you should be safe. And actually, you got a lot of grief for that, which I thought was a bit unfair.
Yeah, I think it's like all of these things. It depends when you drop into social media, doesn't it? At what point in the emotional roller coaster people are on. I mean, all of us. I mean, you're as big a fan of the horse community as one can find, and everybody's desperate to keep on their horse, and either on a yard or a riding school or riding school proprietors or the stakeholder group. So, huge amount of emotion there with people having to leave what they were. Their passion. And I think as people sort of work through that in the first week, we try to work through it and interpret all of the first week, 7, 8, 10 days, I suppose it was, really as people started to settle down a little bit. Then I think people started to get their own sort of rhythms. But it has been difficult, and it's difficult for everybody on every level, isn't it? Whether you're a professional or non-professional, or just a sort of a leisure rider like me. So we've tried to, and hopefully you've seen some of the big ticket items that the team worked on and developed over the last 10 days or so, like the Riding School Hardship Fund that we've produced. There's about £300,000 in that fund now.
Wow.
Donations appeal just went over £15,000 today, which is the highest donations appeal we've achieved so far, I think, in certainly in the team's recent memory. So it just shows how people really care, and rightly so. Those riding schools particularly got their revenue cut off on the first day of lockdown, and we all know they've got high costs of running and welfare. And they need support, and we're, like I say, right here by their side through this thick and thin.
Well, thank you for everything that you're doing and to support, supporting the industry, because I think a lot of us do feel alone right now, and it's good to know that there is help out there, and we're all just trying to, find our way through right now. And it's great that your team are on the phone if we need any help or we're unsure about something. And, it's not just all about money, it's also about our mental health and our security and just checking in that we're okay. So thank you for that. I could talk to you, James, about this for ages. I've got so many questions for you, but I am under strict instructions today that we have to talk about the National Equine Forum, because we want to talk about the National Equine Forum.
Absolutely.
Because, as awful as all this is, at some point we're hoping that the coronavirus will disappear, and we would like to continue with the good work that you guys have been doing up until now. And one of the things that you talked about at the NEF was access and bridleways. And if anything, I think there's been a bit of a rise in conversation about bridleway access, because more people have had time to ride right now. More people have had time to go for walks. And they're saying, hey, actually, I've got time to think about this problem that I've got. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what you talked about at the National Equine Forum, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're spot on in terms of what's happened throughout the coronavirus period, because although it's obviously a terrible time for everybody, specifically when we think about access, one of our 4 charitable aims, we've as a team, we've had to furlough a few of our team members in access, but we've got 4 of our access officers are out working across the UK, as well as our project management group. And of course, our fantastic volunteers have continued to work throughout the period as well. And we've got around about 270 volunteers who are specifically focused on access. But our 2026 campaign that is really critical is all about how do we make sure that as many routes as possible are on the definitive map. And it's really, really important that we make sure that we are recording all of these routes. Otherwise, they're going to be lost forever. And we need safe riding routes for the generations to come.
We absolutely do, but that's a huge task for you to have. I know that there's some great access, what do we call them? What would you call your access people in each area?
Yeah, so access officers, and there's all sorts of acronyms, but we've got volunteers and officers that are up and down the country.
And it's great because if you see somewhere when you're riding or when you're walking that you think should have been or used to be a bridle way and now it's closed off, then we just have to get in touch with our local officer. And normally they've got a Facebook page, or you can go onto your website, can't we? And we can look at the access routes and how to, mention it to them. And then they fight the corner for us. Is that right?
Absolutely right. Yeah. So, there's opportunity here for both equestrian and non-equestrian people, and just people who love to be outdoors, and everybody can get involved. And we really would encourage everybody to be involved, not just equestrians and people who are riders on bridleways, because it's really important that we use our partners as well, across cycling and rambling, to make sure these routes are open. So if anybody does want to come and join and support us in this, they can go onto our website, search for 2026, and then there's a really handy toolkit on there, and they can get involved themselves. Or, as you say, they can send us an email, get in touch, give us a ring, and then we can try and get somebody on the case.
And how long have you been doing this for?
It's always been a charitable aim of the BHS for sort of many years. But really and truly, the 2026 campaign has been running for a couple of years now. And although it feels like 2026 is like a long, long way away, many of these applications that we make take time, and it does take some hard work to get them recorded. And because there are thousands of them that need to be recorded, then we need more time. And we're keen to make sure that we're trying to lobby government to extend the deadline, because in truth, why should there be any deadline to make routes available that are already there for the public to use?
Absolutely. I do have a question. I've got lots of questions for you, James, actually, because you were kind enough to answer some of the questions at the National Equine Forum. We've got a few extras, if that's okay. But one big question that I hear a lot, and I've wondered myself, is the difference between a bridleway that's owned by the council and a bridleway that's maybe owned by a farmer. So it's very difficult to know what is a public right of way and what has been a permissive route. And I found myself getting very frustrated thinking that there's a bridleway and seeing, a few years later it's closed off with fencing and barbed wire, and thinking, how can they be so mean to not let me through there? But not really knowing who to contact. So how can we find out the difference between the two? And should farmers be allowing us to go along these bridleways?
Yeah, there's two fantastic questions there, because the first one is, how do we really know what type of route it is? And of course, there's an opportunity to go and look at OS maps and really see what is already recorded on the OS map, and using the key there. And of course, do give us a ring as well here at BHS HQ of information found on our website, and we'll again be able to look at that with you and just walk through it and just help you to sort of determine if there are some technical issues that you need to work through. And the second part of that question about landowners and farmers, we need to work together on these things, and it's most certainly not us against them. This is about collaborating, and often farmers and landowners think that they can close routes and doing it for good reason. But what we've really got to just have a good discussion about is how do we make sure that access routes that should be open to the public are open to the public.
It's interesting because there are, I look at things from both perspectives, both as a land owner and as a rider myself. And a lot of the time we're not respectful enough to be... I'm not surprised that the farmers say, hey, I don't want you coming down here, because they put these rules in place and a lot of us break them, which makes those relationships even harder, really. So I guess it's a case of, fixing those relationships, but also looking after them and being really as respectful as we can be so that we have these places to ride. In terms of the council then, if I was to go to a bridle way and see that it was all completely overgrown, I'd like to think that I'd make the effort myself to go and cut those trees down and make it better. But I can't say I would do that all the time, because, life gets in the way. Who could I ask to help with that if there was an issue with the bridleway?
Yeah, firstly, it's the landowner's responsibility to make sure bridleways and access routes are kept clear, and then the local authority have the responsibility of making sure that the actual route is of the right standard to be able to use it. So there is a sort of combination of responsibility there. But of course, we also want to be able to help. And in many, many cases, the BHS has worked with landowners and local authorities to contribute both financially and with our great volunteers and our own operations staff to help to clear some of these routes and resurface routes. So it's often a team effort. And as I said before, we also want to collaborate with cyclists and the Ramblers Association. So again, if you see opportunities like that, get in touch. And then we can see if we can get a team on the case.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to some questions now from people who watched you at the National Equine Forum. We didn't quite have time to answer them all. So if we start with Steffi de Bootman, we are already seeing paths being closed. With the new trespass legislation, will that mean more problems?
Yeah, the government consultation was really in respect to unauthorised encampments. And the British Horse Society has written to the Home Secretary expressing our concern and making sure that there aren't any unintended consequences from that legislation. So we've certainly got our eye on that one. A great question there from Steffi. Yeah, good, very important.
Thank you. Okay, and then we have Doug Smith. What are the BHS doing to ensure that riders understand they have responsibilities as well as rights when using public highways and bridleways? Which is interesting because we kind of touched on that a moment ago about, are we responsible and how responsible are we?
Yeah, again, it's definitely a two-way street for all of us, isn't it? In the fact that we have a great responsibility as the equestrian community to show that respect, stay on the pathways, do the right thing. And for us, it's very much part of our message and what we encourage people to do. And of course, there are other actions that we take in terms of trying to help the equestrian community. And one of our programs that we have, which is the BHS Ride Safe Award, this is really about helping equestrians to not only ride safely on the road, but how to use bridleways, how to pass people, how to ride past cyclists. So it's really a great way to sort of develop your own knowledge, but it's also a fun thing to be able to do and to be really safe out there on the roads.
It's brilliant. It's a bit like your cycling proficiency, isn't it, really? Where you help us, we know the signs and which way to go and how to ask people to slow down and how to say thank you.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
How to wear your high vis. It's
exactly
brilliant.
Right.
We can get these books, can't we? You're under your education centre on your website. You've got a shop with
that's it. Yeah. And that's, funnily enough, during the lockdown, we've never sold more books and more equestrian information, as you can imagine. So our education team have been really busy. Plenty of books and education there for everybody to go to. Yeah, thanks.
I was thinking of this the other day, and I was thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be great if you were to do Zoom sessions? One of my friends who's an instructor has set up some Zoom sessions for people to do the theory side. So if there was a way we could pass the theory online, then when we're out of lockdown, we could literally just pop to the local BHS centre and do the practical side. By the time we're out of lockdown, you could have a load of equestrians that are halfway there.
Well, do you know what? You're spot on, because we've had hundreds of coaches actually have, as you say, Amy, migrated to doing theory parts of both our challenge awards and of our stage professional qualifications online. And this has been really helpful. And we've trained about 150 or so coaches how to deliver that online as well. We've also reduced the costs of our challenge awards as well for people until the end of June, the books and all the other associated information. So absolutely, using technology has really helped with the theory.
Amazing.
And then we can get back on it as soon as we can, get back on board.
Yeah, of course. Oh, well, that's good. And we can find out more information about your Challenge Awards again on your website. Is it bhs.org.uk?
That's it, spot on, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so another question then from Siobhan. Quiet country lanes are changing into busy roads due to house building. Could vulnerable road user awareness be part of housing plans, especially in rural areas? I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it is. And often housing developments, of course, think about cyclists and pedestrians, but very much part of our and the society's access team is really aimed at monitoring planning applications that are going in for housing developments and trying to get in and part of the consultation process to make sure that the equine routes are there, so that what might happen is sometimes bridleways get cut off because housing estates get built, and then it becomes a difficult, busy and not safe route to go through. So we've got some great examples of where we've intervened, but we do need more people to shout out and help us and join the cause in bringing this to people's knowledge.
I find people find us a bit of a pain, and we really don't want to be in the way. We don't want to ruin people's planning permission or anything like that. We just want to be safe. And I find that I'm hearing a lot people saying that on the roads as well. When they're on the roads, they don't really want to be on a road. We'd love to be on an amazing gallop track as a bridleway, but they're just not there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, only 20% of equestrians, or I think it's less than 20%, sorry, actually have direct access to a bridleway, and therefore more than 80% of people are having to go on the road. And we just want safe routes, as you say.
Absolutely.
And that's the key.
Okay, another question. Are you seeking to impose new routes on landowners? That's from Stian Johansson.
Yeah, it's a really important question, and we don't want any confusion. What the BHS is not trying to do is create new routes for landowners. That's not our objective. The 2026 project really aims to make sure that we record the historical routes that are already by law open to equestrians and other people to use, and we need to get these on the definitive map, and that really is critically important. Otherwise, they'll be lost forever. And we know there's been, in the last 10 years, there's been around about 4,500 incidents reported to us, and 1,000 horses have been injured, and nearly 400 horses have been killed on the roads, and 44 humans terribly have lost their lives. So trying to make sure these routes are available, that are rightfully available to the public at them are now, and really need to be put onto the map.
You just made me think of another question, actually. In terms of footpaths then, James, some things are registered as footpaths, some are registered as bridleways. They're two obviously very different things. However, some footpaths would be really suitable bridleways, and you can't find a bridleway for a really long distance. Is there a chance of us being able to get that footpath changed into a bridleway?
Well, there's no reason that we can't go to the local authority to make the case. And I'm like you. I often, out hacking, I see a footpath, and it does look as though it could be sometimes better than a bridleway in many cases. But yeah, no, we can certainly take the cause to the local authority. And if people see those sorts of opportunities, again, come through to our team on the website, or through directly giving us a call. Let's see if we can put a plan together.
Oh, amazing. Hey, James, what horse do you have?
I have got 3 Shire horses.
Oh, amazing.
They're my thing, particularly.
And how old are they?
We've got a range of ages. So we're down for my mare is, I think she will be turning 8 this time. And her gelding is, what's he now, 5 this time. Grown up before you know it, and the other one is just 2. So we've got 2, 5, and 8. Yeah.
Goodness. And do you do any driving with them as well, or is it just hacking?
I would love to do driving. I just haven't got the time, and you need a helper, and I had a Percheron previously, and she was a driven and ridden Percheron, and we had a great time with her, but she was really already properly backed and ready to roll. So I had fun with her.
So
How
you
about you?
may. Oh, I have a Frisian Cross Gelderlander,
Ah, nice.
which sounds very unique. Like I went
Yeah.
out to find a Frisian Cross Gelderlander. I really didn't. He's the most fabulous horse and has such a lovely soul. He's really
Yeah.
kind. But you may have heard of the Percherons in the New Forest, then the Sampson family.
Yeah, I know Robert Sampson. Yeah, I do. Yeah, he's
Renowned family for having the most beautiful Percherons, and they often do displays and things, but they still use the horses as working horses on the farm today, which is lovely.
absolutely. Yeah, no, Robert Sampson. He's well famous in our Percheron world, and he's a great campaigner. And got, you may have seen him when he's sort of hitched up 15, 16 Percherons all at once when he's ploughing and harrowing and doing all sorts of amazing stuff.
It's
And out
amazing.
hunting, goes out hunting, all sorts of these boys are farriers as well. It's great.
I was lucky for a period of time. I lived in a house that was backing onto his land,
Really.
and there were 20 acres and it was all open. And one morning, it was a misty morning, it was like something out of a stunt movie. I
Yeah.
just see this guy galloping across, like a cowboy with
Yeah.
this huge Percheron. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, I didn't even know these horses could run that fast. But no, they're incredible horsemen.
Have you ever seen his Viking helmet?
No, I
That
haven't.
when he goes driving competitions, he's got two Percherons in hand, and then he's got his helmet with his horns on that are like Viking horns, and he looks just fantastic. Yeah, brilliant.
Amazing. There's another heavy horseman near me as well in the New Forest called Nigel, and he has no, I forgot what they're called, and they are on the rare breeds list too.
Suffolks or
Yes,
Ardennes
Suffolk
or Suffolks.
punches.
Yeah,
And so what he does is every year he brings, he actually carriages, Father Christmas into town, which is really
oh
lovely,
right,
and the
yeah,
Christmas
yeah,
tree, and it's
yeah, brilliant.
beautiful. It's beautiful to watch those. So
Yeah,
anyway,
nice.
back to the
Yeah.
NEF. A couple more
Anyway, yeah.
questions for
Sorry.
you because they really are good ones. Can you please? This is from Jennifer. Can you please define off-road hacking? Does hacking along a quiet country road or lane for 5 minutes to get to a bridle path still count as off-road riding?
No, I think it's really, if you have to go on a road, if it's designated for vehicles, then we're on the road as such. So it is what it says on the tin. I think in most cases, and that's really the case. And of course, what we want to make sure is that those tracks are open and not obscured by anything for us to be able to ride down.
Wonderful, thank you. And then from Siobhan, can we also ask the public to help us with welfare by driving appropriately and not littering? Hacking simulates roaming and is good for physical and mental health.
Yeah, it's a great question as well. As we know, there's two parts to that question. I think for me, there's the work that we do across our safety team, another one of our major 4 charitable aims, really making sure that we are sending the message very clearly through our Dead Slow campaign. And this is trying to educate and share with drivers and also the riding community to say, when you're going past a horse, go wide and slow down to 15 miles an hour or lower, and try and be careful and considerate for the horse rider. I mentioned the stats before of how many horses have been killed and people have been killed in the last 10 years, and that's about 400 horses nearly, and 44 people, which has been terrible. So we're very, very much trying to support the education of drivers and also of the rider. But we also say to the second part of the question here that has been asked is we're very much aware of, and all of us that ride and the wider community understand that the health benefits of being out in the open, doing exercise, whether it be on the horse or off the horse, mucking out, looking after the horse, looking after the land so that we keep our horses on, is great for both our body, soul and mind. And we will also more broadly have a program called Changing Lives Through Horses. And this is, again, where we're working with young and often deprived children to help them have a second chance in being able to work with horses, to bring them back into some way of working and get some structure in their lives. And it's been a tremendous success.
I think it's lovely. Any opportunity where we can give someone the chance to spend some time with horses, I think they keep us sane, as much as it's hard and it's tough at times, especially in the winter. We just know that they're our therapy, really, as much as we're probably other people's therapy at the same time. It's great to have a community where people can actually reach out to each other and support each other, which has been particularly difficult, I think, during coronavirus, because some people have been able to go riding and others haven't wanted to for various reasons, and there hasn't been a ban on riding. So many people are saying, they want to ride because it's good for their mental health, and other people are saying, well, they don't because they don't want to put the NHS at risk. And it's one of those really difficult times where I feel like we're really stuck in the middle to know what's the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, you've summarised it really well, and I think at the end of the day, we've got to risk assess our horses and what we do, and do things very carefully, and do the right thing. Absolutely.
I kind of wish the government had just given us a say, you've got to do this, or you don't have, you mustn't do this, or you can do that. But while we're given an option and it's our choice, it's so difficult. But are you managing to carry on riding? Are you spending time with your horses, or are you too busy on Zoom?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been like all of us. We all need to release our tensions, and I've been really with my horses on the ground, in truth. But everybody has to make their own choices. But I've taken a lot of solace and taken a lot of wise advice, as you do with the conversations you have with your horse, and that unique bond that we all know that we get from horses, and we obviously want to encourage other people. I think most importantly, when this is all over and we start to get the lockdown starts being lifted, I'd really try and encourage people perhaps who have not thought of riding or have been away from riding for some time, to get back to your local riding school, give them some support, because these are the lifeblood of the equestrian community, and we really want riding schools to be able to get back up on their feet as quickly as possible and start getting people back riding, and perhaps get more people riding than were before, because it's such a fabulous thing to have that bond, as you and I know, between your horse and riders. This really is a privilege to have.
James, thank you so much. It's been really lovely to meet you, and I wish you the very best success as your new role with the British Horse Society. Good luck lobbying government. I hope you fight for us as hard as you can.
We are. Well, we're doing that now. I mean, we're across a whole number of different areas at the moment through the lockdown. We've been talking to DEFRA directly, and I talk to them every week, in fact, on an equine and wider animal welfare call. We're also lobbying into the Treasury, into local authorities on different aspects around business rates and relief and welfare activity, and about how do we forward the other aims that we've got. That none of these have stopped or gone away through lockdown. It's just we've had to put emphasis on perhaps some of the other things.
Well, if you need any help from our community, then or you'd like us to do any surveys, then we'd love to help you, because what better to ask than the people who are in those roles themselves, particularly through the hard time that they've been having, because there's many that haven't been, I for one wasn't able to get nothing, because I couldn't have rural rate relief. There was just a whole bunch of things, and sadly I didn't meet any of the criteria, and the people that I'm speaking to are kind of in this gap as well. So happy to put some surveys out if you'd like to hear from our listeners and what they think, and I promise they'll be nice. We're not mean.
You've got great listeners. We love all your listeners. We want them to be our members as well. Carry on, or many of them keep supporting us. They've been brilliant through this difficult time. But thank you for the offer.
James Hick, Chief Executive of British Horse Society. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. If we want any more information, then we can head to your website, which is bhs.org.uk. Thanks so much.
You're great. Thank you for your help. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. The British Horse Society have put together the coronavirus appeal, so please, if you can, donate £5. It's really simple. You've just got to text HORSE, HORSE, to 70507. So to donate £5 to the coronavirus appeal, please text HORSE to 70507. every bit of money will go back into the horse industry, and that is what's so important. They've been working really hard at keeping riding schools together they've put this fund together to help riding schools, and there's advice, and just they're offering so much support. So just that extra £5 will make such a difference. So thank you for that. If you need somebody to talk to, then you can message us anytime at Horse Hour. Just head to the Facebook page, drop us a message, and we are monitoring that all the time. So please don't feel alone, because you're not. We're in this together. And the one thing that I love about the horse industry is that when times are hard, we really do support each other. So if you see anybody having a tough time, don't forget to drop them a message or WhatsApp or a text, or even pick up the phone and say, hey, do you need a bit of support through that? So thank you so much for listening. I'm going back to bringing out as many episodes as we can. So I've got heaps of interviews lined up for you to get you through this period of lockdown. If there's anybody you want me to interview, then drop me a message and I will get in contact with them. I hope you stay safe, and if you need anything, give us a text. Speak to you soon.